Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I'm your host, Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here. It is February 22nd here in the solarium.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases. Today with us, we have Luke Smith, singer-songwriter, producer, and music educator. Luke, would you please introduce yourself to the audience, tell them about your various projects and what's coming up?
Yeah, so my name's Luke Smith. I perform as a singer-songwriter as Luke Thomas Smith, including my middle name in there to be more differentiated on Spotify. Then I also produce as Late Night Luke and make hip-hop and lo-fi. And I'm also a guitar teacher and piano teacher at Rhapsody Music in town.
Cool. Well, what was your first project? What was the project that got you into music and making you think this is the thing you want to revolve around?
Yeah, I think mostly it started, I was a guitar player first before I sang. I wrote a lot of instrumental pieces, finger picking, that kind of stuff. And I got more into it, and then I decided that I just wanted to write a lot of songs, and that was even before I was a singer at all. So
were you writing a lot of fingerstyle guitar music?
yeah, just kind of a lot of instrumental stuff, very peaceful, kind of similar to the stuff I do now, but just instrumentals.
What's your current like discography like? Do you have a complete album out? You have a one full album as Luke Thomas Smith, right?
Actually, I don't. It's all been
No?
EPs so far. So I have
Okay.
about 4 EPs of Luke Thomas Smith.
Okay, cool. That probably makes up approximately an album.
Yeah.
Are you working on anything right now for that project?
Yeah, well, I've finally been getting into writing again. I had a long hiatus where I was just working on beats and just dealing with other stuff, but I'm finally getting into writing songs again, so it's been fun.
Nice. And you've been you've been one of the artists in the area who I've seen out playing a bunch of Tuesday tunes and stuff like that, kind of definitely making some rounds in the area. What's that been like over the last, especially the last couple of years, like just being a little different and stuff, but what's that been like, and how's that fit into your projects?
Yeah, so I try to perform a lot as mostly a singer-songwriter. I haven't done anything live as electronic music yet, but it's been really great. I think Mankato has a lot of places to play. Just even within walking distance, it's like the coffee shop, the wine cafe, and the Circle Inn, the What's Up Lounge, and that's all within a few blocks that I can walk to. So it's been a place I've been playing at for years before I lived here, and now that I'm here, I have like a million places I can play at.
Right on. What brought you to Mankato in the first place?
Yeah, so I originally came here because I was going to school. I went to school for music industry at MSU, and I just started to get into the town a lot more as I was going to school and exploring open mics and kind of realizing there's a music scene here, because that wasn't something that was obvious until I actually was here.
Sure. And what was the experience of discovering that? Like, where were you at when you decided that this was something you wanted to invest your time in, Mankato, that is?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was I was realizing there's a lot more events and scenes going on that I didn't have time for because I was working full time and going to school. And so once I was done with that, I kind of wanted to just take more time just to go to shows and meet people and kind of experience it all that way.
It was just tough to. So it was almost like you felt like there was more you hadn't quite gotten to yet, more to be done in the area.
Right, exactly. Because there'd always be events, and I'm like, I'm working that night for pretty much everything. So
Yeah.
Now, you have quite a bit of material both out and that you play live, because I'm pretty sure you do like 3-hour shows and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
What was the beginning process of that like? Did you like learn a bunch of covers and start going out, or did you like try to amass like a catalog of your own first?
Yeah, I think my main motivation for playing live was just trying to play my original songs.
Yeah.
So at first, covers were kind of a necessary evil. And I do enjoy playing covers now, but
Yeah.
at first it was like, I know I can't go to a bar and just play all original music. I feel like that's not going to go over well.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that same thing right now. I never really learned that way. I just learned through writing. So it's been trying to learn covers so I can fill out a set is something that's been plaguing me lately. So that's mainly why I asked.
Did you start with like big long sets like that, or did you kind of like build up to it?
I kind of built up to it, and I was
Yeah.
lucky. I started at bars that were really open. I'd just be like, I just have this amount of time. I think at first it was like 20, 30 minutes, and I just
Cool.
did it twice.
Yeah.
And they were pretty cool with that.
Oh yeah.
Nice. That's
Sure.
fun.
What when you went out to do that, what kind of music were you playing? Who were you covering?
Yeah, kind of some stuff, original stuff I've done, like the one I played today, High and Dry was one.
Mhm.
And then the Beach Boys, the God Only Knows, I still do that one. A lot of these I've updated quite a bit, but I started with not a ton of covers. I did Lua by Bright Eyes. And even then, I wasn't even doing super well-known songs. It was still stuff I kind of liked, so...
Yeah. That kind of leads to my next question, which is what were your musical influences, both when you started playing music and have they changed to where they are now?
Yeah, I think starting out when I was getting into guitar especially, I was really into Jack Johnson and John Mayer. That was kind of my two guys that I tried to emulate.
Hmm.
And I kept writing a lot even as I was getting into hip hop and other stuff. So for folk, it was kind of interesting. Sometimes I wouldn't listen to folk for a long time, but I was still writing it.
Mm.
But yeah, since then, kind of getting into Bob Dylan, Bright Eyes was a big one. Ray LaMontagne, just kind of anyone I liked who had a good sound and good lyrics that I could get into.
Yeah.
Would you say you're pretty lyrically driven as a listener?
I would say no, actually. I think I'm more vibe driven.
Okay.
So even
Okay.
if I just get a bit of the lyrics and I kind of get the main story, I don't necessarily need to know all of it.
Okay. Like, yeah, that's interesting because I I listened to a ton of instrumental music. I didn't start listening to singing until I tried to learn how to sing recently. Also, have you ever really gigged with like other people in like a band setting or anything like that?
Not a whole lot. I had a couple shows where I had a band put together, but it
Yeah.
was kind of haphazard and not super refined, but it was still fun.
Heck yeah.
Good experience.
Do you think you'll try and do that more in the future then?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with just open mic and playing with people. It's something I've
Yeah.
kind of missed out on. I'd like to just get more stuff going for my own stuff or just working on other people's stuff.
Yeah, me, Willis, and Luke actually have a project that only exists within my open mic called Echo in the Locations, where podcast guest and friend Echo sings for us, and then Luke's on bass. I'll play drums or guitar, and then Willis will do some electronic stuff. It's really fun. It's really fun having you come up and do that, and you let me play with you all the time. So that's really sick. And is that you said you got your start doing open mics, kind of. Where around were you playing those?
Oh, actually, I didn't even get started at open mics at first. This is kind of
Okay.
interesting. I went to school for music originally in 2011,
Okay.
for one semester at McNally Smith. And at that point, I was just writing instrumental stuff. But I took a class for songwriting, and it was a requirement that it had to be lyrics and you had to sing them,
Mhm.
which was like terrifying, but I was also secretly happy because it was a great excuse. Oh, well, I have to sing now.
Yeah.
So that was a great boost of confidence for me because those people were pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really talented people there.
Heck yeah.
So
What was that process like for you as a person who primarily wrote instrumental music to move over to doing singer-songwriter kind of stuff?
yeah, it was interesting because I did kind of do it a little bit in secret and private. I wasn't trying to show anybody or anything. I was pretty shy about it. So it was kind of just getting used to how nervous I got having to sing in front of people. That was like the main obstacle. I didn't even think I was bad. I just knew I was terrified singing in front of people.
Sure.
Mm.
What was the, do you have any tips for what got you over that? Was it just repetition?
Yeah, I think I just had to do it and then just be okay with the fact that I was going to feel a certain way and I just had to get through it.
Mm.
Like just not trying to control it, like trying to make myself not nervous. I just had to go and be nervous.
Makes sense.
Mm.
I would have almost thought the opposite nearly, that when I first heard you playing, you have such a distinctive, and I don't know if breathy is the right word, voice, that I would have thought that like, oh, this is a singer who like learned to play guitar because like they have a very like specific singing style, and then to find out that it's the opposite is kind of interesting.
Mm.
Did you develop that style, or is it just the way that you've always sang?
I think I kind of have a theory about it. I don't know if this is accurate, but at first when I was singing in my parents' basement, I didn't want anyone to hear me, even my family. So I would just sing super, super quiet.
Hmm.
And then I think that's kind of where it started, is just kind of me putting no breath whatsoever into it, or a lot of breath but not a lot of sound.
Oh, sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I took singing lessons to kind of clear that up, but then she told me you can sing that way. It's not like a bad
Yeah.
thing
I
necessarily.
would say I like it. I've been able to pick you out, and I've probably heard you play live 2 or 3 times, and I've seen a few recordings on the internet, but I've still walked in and be like, "Oh, Luke's playing." So, I mean, it stands out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
great.
neat. So with like getting started as a vocalist singing, basically, what were some of the other challenging parts about that? Did you play your full set before you started singing? Did you do any like playing out with the just electronic part, or just the guitar?
I never did too much of that. I would show
Okay.
some people and they would like some of them, but I always got the feedback, oh, now you need lyrics over it.
Mm.
And I had a couple buddies, like one buddy who tried to write some stuff, but he was kind of just making generic stuff up. And I
Yeah.
probably should have collaborated with him, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is my precious song. I don't want you to ruin it with your stupid lyrics.
Something random. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but in retrospect, we probably should have made some stuff together.
I've been encouraged you to write lyrics you were happy putting on them. That's probably a win.
Yeah, I could have communicated better, I'm sure.
What's the songwriting process like for you? How do you like get started with something?
I think it's pretty much just always coming from chords for me, or finger picking, or kind of working it out that way.
Hmm.
And then the lyrics are always the part that takes me longer. And I'm trying to get better at it, and I'm trying to be more self-expressive in my lyrics. Yeah, because especially like for Jared Smile Bros stuff, he really puts it out there, and I'm like, that's really, really cool to listen to his stuff because it's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be more open in my own writing for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can literally only write jokes that are like I can only write songs that are a joke or like way too serious. I'm really bad at finding like a middle ground. Like it's either like getting high and going to Aldi's, or like I sad and depressed and I should be alone forever. I don't have like a like a center line there.
I mean, I feel like that's a normal experience, though. It's a very normal experience to get high and go to Aldi.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know,
It's relatable.
It doesn't feel like a joke when you sing it. I look at you and I believe it. Like,
It's about a real day I had. That song is literally, I looked up and it said, write about your day. So I just literally wrote a song. That was the day I had. I went to Aldi, I went to my studio, and I went to a wine cafe. And so I just wrote that.
It's great. I wonder if anyone's ever heard that and been like, yeah, now I know for sure he was high.
I was looking at those insect-eating plants for too long. Why do I have those at Aldi anyways? I don't know.
Protect your produce.
What have you had? How do you come up with your lyrics? Is it introspective, or are you writing about your days? What's your process like for that?
Yeah, I'm trying to, I guess I kind of, at first when I was writing, I made it pretty darn vague, where I can't even, some songs that I've had before, I can't even decipher them myself now. But yeah, just kind of thinking melody first and kind of taking it from there. So I'd say in a way I prioritize melody over lyrics. And that kind of helps me finish too, because if I try to get perfect lyrics, I just can't. I just have to be okay with the lyrics that I got out. And then a couple weeks pass, I'm like, no, these are good. I like these.
Well, I mean, doesn't people are gonna make whatever they want out of it? Like you could write a perfect song and then somebody's gonna misinterpret it, you know. So
Yep.
I don't know. I don't write songs like that, so I can't even imagine what that feels like.
Yeah, songwriting's always felt like one of those difficult things, and we've talked to a lot of different people on this show, even who've had like kind of varying strategies or ways of doing that. And it seems like everyone does it differently.
Yeah, the way Laura does it helped me the most. Like literally just word vomiting for like longer than you need, and then like going back and picking out what you like.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's probably the single best piece of advice that's ever been doled out on this podcast. 'Cause
Yeah.
I use that one too when I have had to write numerous things.
Besides, get high before you go to Aldi.
That's what I did. That thing, not the getting high and going to Aldi, but
Yeah, I've done that.
We're like getting a whole page of lyrics out. It was when we were sitting at the open mic the other day. For some reason,
Yeah.
I just like it turned on and I had 2 pages filled, and I don't even think I've looked back at them or
Yeah.
turned them into the songs that they were, but I remember being pretty stoked
I
about it.
feel like the best stuff I've created in general, let alone like music I've written, is like the stuff that I kind of sat down, wrote in like 1 or 2 cities, and like kind of thought was kind of like corny and just something I wrote really quick or something like that. I've had this experience with Onion Bun too, where like the songs that we've put in like months and months of labor never get brought up as people's favorite songs. It's always like the song I wrote in an afternoon or something like that. Do you have that experience, Luke?
Yep, I've definitely had that a lot, quite a bit. Which
Yeah.
is funny because, especially in retrospect, you kind of forget how long it took you and how short it took you.
Yeah.
But then I sometimes will look back and be like, yeah, I really planned this to be good. And I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
tell people I thought it was good because I want the honest reaction.
Yep.
And then no one said anything. Versus, like you said, the one that you wrote in like a couple hours and then people are giving you all these compliments on it
Yeah.
and it feels fake because you're like, well, that just took me not that long.
Yeah, I have Grum songs that took me days and weeks to write, and then the one I get the most compliments on is the one I wrote in one afternoon. It's interesting how like the labor on art can be like that. You can definitely overdo it.
Right. You just kind of have to just keep showing up and making stuff. And then when it's good, it's good.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, it's flexing the muscle.
What are your motivations? Like, what has you maintaining the desire to show up? What are your goals like?
Yeah, I think, well, for motivation, I just feel like I notice how much happier I am when I'm creating stuff. It's just something I got to do to feel okay. And that's kind of my main motivation, I would say, is just, that's just how I need to be healthy. Because if I'm not doing that stuff, I just feel kind of depressed, you know?
Yeah, I have the same thing.
Yeah, and I just, it's like, you kind of forget that in a way if you go a little while without making something, you know, and then you're like, oh, well, this was it.
Yep.
Just like maybe you're dehydrated and you're like, oh, I need to drink some water.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When did you come to that realization?
I think it was actually when I first went to music school. I was in the MIDI library and I was making like really, really bad beats because I didn't know what I was doing. But then I was hanging out with a buddy after and he kind of pointed out that like, oh, you're just like glowing right now. Like, what did you do? Like I was making like terrible songs in the MIDI lab. And they were really bad. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. There's something about the things that you get you excited, or the ones that you see through to a point of them being like worth something. I don't know if you're not if it like I've wanted to play the guitar. We were talking about this earlier. I wanted to play the guitar for a long time, but I clearly haven't wanted it enough to pick it up every day for more than 2 days in a row. And that's all it takes. I feel like you need something that gets you excited to keep going. What were the other pieces that like helped you learn, how to go from making beats that you weren't very stoked about to having stuff that you think represents your art well?
Yeah. Well, actually, I should clarify that I thought they were good at the time. Classic. Yeah, which is great. I think being naive is kind of helpful in that way. Because if I was realistic, I'd be like, I'm not going to waste my time on this. This is bad.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I didn't know that. I was naive. So maybe I'm naive now still. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people should like probably come to that, like that you've learned and a long path has gone along, because it couldn't be what you played for us today, I mean, I was there, I heard it, and then we're doing this now. So, I mean, if it was truly awful, we would have booted you, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That would have been such an awkward moment. Yeah, actually, we're not going to have you on today.
Yeah, my microphones are out of juice. We
It's on
can't.
the fritz.
They're full. We got to dump out the words, and then
Oh, okay, that checks out.
You played a couple songs for us today that we're pretty stoked to share. Can you tell us a little bit about those ones? There was Passerby was one for sure. And then you played Hollow, I think, was a cover, or is it
Ooh, High and Dry.
High and Dry? There.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Passers-By I wrote it in the practice room at MSU. And it had a really romantic feel to it, so I made it really romantic, which actually I don't do that a lot at the time, so just kind of came out as a love song. Feel pretty good about it.
Nice.
Is it a love song with direction?
Direction?
Like, is it for someone specific?
Oh, no. That's a good question.
Just a general song about love.
And then High and Dry is the other one. What would you pick that one?
That one, that's like the first one I wrote that I actually liked. That's like 9 years old at this point.
Wow.
But I still have some friends that come to my shows that want to hear it, which is great. And then the other people don't really care. They're not noticing, oh, he's playing this really old song, It's just a song they don't know.
Can you tell in that song that your, writing style and your performance style has evolved? Do you find that you're like playing it how you used to, or are you able to keep it fresh and make it sound like you want it to today too?
Yeah, I think the main evolution is just me knowing how to sing a little bit better, not needing to take as many unnecessary breaths. Yeah, and I have some really old recordings of that too, which is fun because I can compare, and it's a bit faster, a bit better played.
Oh, cool.
But other than that, the heart of it is still there.
Is all your stuff self-produced?
Yep.
Sick. I love that.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah,
Y'all want to break real quick for ads and then come back and talk about
Yeah. Be right back.
We're just going to take a quick moment out of this podcast to let you know what we do. We are a media and event production company, and we offer multicam and live streaming production solutions for your next project.
We'll show up to your venue or event. We'll produce the stage, lighting, really anything from stage management to day of production.
Keep up with us at triplefalls.org. And if you want the best versions of all of our content, we have expanded our podcast distribution to be on Apple Music as well as Amazon and a few others. And for our video content, the best place you can find us is on YouTube. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome back. We are here with Luke Smith. I'll just reintroduce you a little bit. Luke Smith is a singer-songwriter and producer. And Luke, you're telling us that you're putting out another EP or putting together another EP for your friend. Fill us in on that project and tell us what you have going on there.
Yeah, so a good friend of mine is getting married. He's getting married in New Mexico in a month. And I've always had this thing where my friends are getting married and I write a song about them. Just kind of have been a running joke for a long time. And he's one of my best friends, so he's getting a whole EP of music, getting about 4 or 5 songs that are mostly going to be inside jokes and pretty silly, pretty fun. Just something to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Got like some folk stuff on there, got some hip hop, got like a lo-fi song. He had a going away party where a lot of people gave speeches about him. So I'm going to sample all that in the lo-fi song. I think it's going to be a fun gift to give him.
That sounds awesome.
That's like literally the coolest wedding present I've ever heard of. That's sick.
What was the first, like, when did you decide you were going to do this? Did you have some kind of, like it evolved from a joke into like a full-fledged production? What was that like?
Yeah, I guess it's really fun, I think, to make art specifically for people. Like, it's for no other audience. Like, I'll share it with other people, but it's going to be a lot of inside jokes and stuff they may not necessarily get. And I just think it's really cool as an artist to be able to make something for a friend specifically. I feel like people don't do that enough.
Sure. Yeah, you're saying that they cater to the wider audience instead of like, producing something for that individual.
Right. And I feel like we have so much creativity, like you can use some of it for that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that there's a real limit on creativity, or is it just your energy that you have time for in the day?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it is just how much time you have.
What other creative projects do you have waiting for your time? What do you is it just more music?
Yeah, mostly music right now. I putting together a lo-fi EP, And I want to eventually release like a rap album because I like to rap a lot for fun. I'm not the best at it. I have a couple of songs out, but it's just one of those things that's just something I enjoy that I want to put more time into. I don't expect to be a serious rapper at all, but it gives me a lot of pleasure just to put that stuff out.
Sure. That's really
Awesome.
cool.
Well, we know that you've got some other music, like your bowling song, that we want to direct people to for any and all bowling reels and other stuff like that. Are there any other little like Easter eggs we can plug before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, I think the only other one is Coffee Shop, my lo-fi song that got like 70,000 TikToks using it.
Heck
Yo,
I'm still not
that's
sure how
sick.
that happened. It just kind of, we just noticed
Coffee
it one
shop.
day.
It's probably the name. It's probably like people in a coffee shop just looked up coffee shop and sound.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so sick.
That
Yeah.
helped a lot.
And I recently made a bowling reel where I didn't lose Luke's song. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to call you out for that.
yeah, it happened. He sent me a Venmo request for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
tell us about that a little bit. You saw a need and you filled it.
Oh, for the bowling one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was also 100% an inside joke just for my friends. Because we started bowling a lot. We called ourselves the Bowly Boys.
Ooh.
And me and one other guy on the team, or not a team, we just bowl with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But me and one other guy made some music together. So it was like 100% a joke, but it's like one of my favorite songs I've done. I don't know what it is. I just think it's just catchy and stupid, and I like it a lot.
Sure.
That's awesome.
And it's getting picked up on the reels end, or it just fills that spot.
Oh, yeah, actually, that one is a little bit on the reels, too. There's like, I think 300 reels on Instagram and then like 70 TikToks.
Oh, right on.
So
That's fun. Well, what do you like? You like the way that as an artist you're able to like share some of those in different formats like that? Is that something you're pretty excited about?
or like reels and TikToks and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of cool. It's not something I expected to happen for a lot of these, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like the coffee shop one. People will look up a keyword, and then I have a song that's pretty specifically, hey, this is about bowling.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. It's interesting to imagine like curating for that, or whether you do or don't. It's a different format for media, but in Zach and I created a stinger for a comedy thing just recently, and I was like, the place we need this is on TikTok so that we can like shoot videos and use it. So I think producing for those formats is kind of an interesting concept, and I mean in a lot of ways could be seen as more impactful than like, I don't know, printing some songs to a CD or something. People really using it to create and do stuff. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me too how people hear like the 10 seconds of it or whatever like a million times.
Yeah.
It's like the rest of the song could really be bad and it wouldn't matter.
That's weird. There's a bunch of pop tunes like that where you'll hear them and then you're like, oh, I know that 10 seconds from the middle, but I was pretty unfamiliar with the rest of it. Kinda
Yeah, or
wild
how they
that
like
is.
go through niches. There's like, occasionally I'll be on Instagram and I'll fall into a funnel of like car stuff,
Mm.
and they have the weirdest sound bites. It's unlike anywhere else, and you have to like purposely click your way out of it. But it's interesting that you don't hear those songs anywhere else, or like they just somehow don't leak into the other parts. I'm sure it happens with some of the bigger ones, but who knows how it works.
Yeah, it's wild. I think it'd be interesting to consider like what new opportunities are possible with some of the stuff like that. Like either ways to repurpose existing music or like even just ways to highlight music that maybe like I think for me, I know some of my music is like a good fit for like a study playlist or like a certain kind of video I could imagine just being cool too. So trying to think about that and then kind of show up in those places would be a good way to start.
You teach kids, right? You teach like kids how to play guitar. Do they have like where do they see themselves playing? Do do they want to contribute to those conversations, or are they just getting told to practice by their parents?
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of depends on the kid. I have quite a few that maybe aren't the most into it right now, but they're kind of getting the foundation,
Yeah.
which I don't think is the worst because later on, if they're into music, they kind of have their foot in the door already.
Yes.
And then some kids that are just really, really into it. And yeah, I have one kid that he's just super excited to learn piano. He was so happy to learn about the notes and how if you know these notes, then it's the whole piano. And he's like, wow, like that blew his mind. Like those kids are a lot of fun to teach.
Yeah. You know, I was reluctantly a student of piano when I was a child, and when I was a younger adult, like in my early 20s, I thought that I was all for nothing, that I did that. I'm not a good musician now. But when I reached my late 20s and decided that I wanted to make music part of my life again, having those lessons, they were there. You know, I had a basic understanding of theory and my way around a keyboard. So I don't feel like it ever really leaves you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've taught kids too that had previously taken piano, and there's like a whole side of it I don't need to teach them because they already got it down. So that's kind of fun. We can just focus on other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, any final plugs? Anything you want to tell the people before we wrap it here?
Yeah, nothing specific. I'm just gonna be making a lot of stuff. Probably more late night Luke stuff in the coming future, but
Cool.
yeah, hoping to put out a lot of music.
Cool.
Yeah.
Catch them on Late Night Luke and Luke Thomas Smith, Spotify, Instagram, wherever else you can find them. TikTok. Cool.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Long time watcher, first time guest.
Ooh.